Well, the time is just gone 8:32 a.m. as we continue with the broadcast this morning. And yesterday we've learned of the chaos in the Johannesburg CBD after the gas explosion in Bree Street. Now, we know that the area became a scene of chaos. Eyewitnesses taking to social media, sharing shocking video footage, and these large cracks in the road, 1 kilometer long cracks that had taken place. And we've also learned that the public has been urged to stay away from Bree Street. We've seen a number of road closures this morning, and clearly these are major causes for concern and also posing a danger to life and property. To unpack this, we joined this morning by Mariette Liefferink, who is an environmental scientist. Mariette, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning and good morning to your listeners.
Yes, Mariette, just your response once you've learned about this explosion that had taken place, the gas leak, and apparently we've learned that the area is still, reeking of the gas and the smell of gas, and clearly a very, very dangerous situation that took place last night.
Yes, perhaps I can just explain that underlying the central business district of Johannesburg, in fact, the entire Witwatersrand goldfields, we have a massive basin. It is referred to as the Witwatersrand Basin. And it is estimated that it is the largest gold and uranium mining basin in the world. When I refer to basin, it would mean a void. That void had been created as a result of 120 or more years of gold mining by 120 mining companies. That void during active mining had been dewatered, but since the cessation of underground mining, the void is now being rewatered, but there is pumping currently taking place in the Eastern Basin, the Western Basin, and the Central Basin. This, of course, can also then result as rewatering and dewatering to seismicity and sinkhole formations. What the illegal miners currently are doing is that they are entering the open shafts that had not been closed, and they then extract gold from some of the pillars that had been left underground. And we have been informed credibly that gas is being used at the moment, as was the case in the Boksburg, the tragic death of 70 persons, and that gas is used by illegal miners to accelerate the gold dissolution from the sulfide-bearing minerals, such as pyrite. Now, our gold co-occurs with iron pyrite. It's a sulfate-bearing mineral. So we still do not know the cause of the gas explosion, but what we do know, of course, that there is a significant proliferation of illegal miners.
Yes. Now, clearly, from what you've just described, Mariette, and looking at the history of the Witwatersrand in particular, and you mentioned mining and all the mining activity, and Bree Street and what happened in the CBT is just but one example of some of the disasters that we've become accustomed to. I know in the Benoni area there was a sinkhole, and we've seen sinkholes, appearing in many, many areas. And again, the question is, just how serious have we been over a period of time to realize that there are huge dangers associated with what has happened with all the mining activity in the past, and also looking at the current illegal mining operations that are taking place.
Yes, I think it might perhaps be relevant to refer to research and an investigation that had been done by the South African Human Rights Commission during 2013 to 2015 on illegal and artisanal and small-scale mining. And it was found, for example, that the cessation of mining without proper closure, as well as the fact that there is many of these mining companies that had been put in care and maintenance. Some of the mining companies had been liquidated. That has also resulted and contributed to the proliferation of unlawful mining. It was also found by the Human Rights Commission that the informal nature of artisanal and small-scale mining or illegal mining, as well as the non-existent legal protection, makes it amenable to illegal dealings or criminal syndicates. And then also the current socio-economic situation in South Africa has also pushed many into unregulated artisanal mining. And it was also found that there is a direct link between the retrenchment of mine workers and illegal mining. So as a result of the findings, and also, of course, because of the casualties that has resulted from illegal mining, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy had published in 2020 the policy on artisanal and small-scale mining. Now, this policy envisions or proposes that artisanal and small-scale mining must be legalized, but it must be reserved only for cooperatives, or preference would be given to cooperatives and would only be reserved for South Africans, and that they should exist together with large-scale operations through contributing agreements and equipment leasing, and that the government should then train these artisanal or small-scale minings to mine safely. That is both environmental regulations should be applied, as well as compliance with mine health and safety regulations, and that there must be a clear distinguishment between illegal miners and artisanal and small-scale mining, and that the government must strengthen laws regarding criminalization of illegal minings to deter illegal mining activities, and a trained detective unit is proposed. So we are eagerly awaiting the implementation of this by the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. If I may, I just wish again to refer to the liquidation of mining companies. As the gold ore, in order to extract the gold, has become more difficult, because now what is required is deep mining. As a result of that, many mining companies, in order to obviate their responsibility for closure, apply for liquidation or care and maintenance. Now, when a mining company applies for liquidation, the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act does not require the liquidator to apply for a closure certificate, to rehabilitate the area and to make safe the area and to top up rehabilitation funds. And that all has resulted now in a proliferation of illegal mining.
Yes. Also, Mariette, I think from what you described, there are clearly deeper underlying issues from what you've described. And we know at this point in time, as a result of the explosion, a lot of focus is on a company like Igoli Gas, that obviously is responsible for the pipeline, for the underground pipeline with the gas. But again, it's not only about Igoli Gas. And we've also learned about, electrical cables that are running under there. So you've got an organization like City Power, for instance. You've got Johannesburg Water, because there are water systems that are running as well, together with all these gas systems. And clearly, all of this has got the makings of an environmental disaster in more ways than one. We're talking about 1 kilometer stretch of roads that was affected with the explosion yesterday. But coming back to the issues, where does the responsibility lie? You speak of the mining companies that have basically closed down. Have they been held accountable? Have they been held responsible? The lack of legislation. You speak of the South African Human Rights Commission, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. Where do they fit into this? The authorities, the police services, illegal mining, criminality, the justice system. So we are talking of a major issue that requires the involvement of just more than one. It's not only about Igoli Gas. It's an entire system that is problematic from what you described.
Yes, in fact, I was asked, my organization, to accompany the Hawks recently on an operation against illegal miners, and that illegal mining activity had taken place in a residential and an agricultural area of Zuurbekom, that is close to Western area. During the operations, it was found that the illegal miners were using cyanide in order to leach the gold. We know that usually illegal miners use mercury, but both cyanide and mercury are deadly. The gases, as well as the seepage or the precipitation of cyanide into the soil, into ground and surface water, can have deadly impacts, not only on wildlife or on domestic animals, but also on human life. So this is also some of the risks that are attached to illegal mining. I also just want to mention that we have excellent laws. In fact, the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Act and its regulations, as well as it has to be read with the National Environmental Management Act, sorry, just a moment, makes provision for a mining company when it ceases mining or when it relinquishes a certain portion of the land on which it mines or to which the mining right relates, that within that period of time, 180 days, it must apply for a closure certificate. And in combination with a closure certificate must be a risk assessment done in order to ensure that the air quality, the ground and surface water, the property or the soil and the vegetation is fit for current and future use. And then the regional manager will issue a closure certificate. When that closure certificate is issued, then the responsibility and the liability revert back to the state. I just want to raise concern here that there has not been one closure certificate issued in the Witwatersrand goldfields, because there is a reluctance by the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy to issue these closure certificates, because there will be obviously certain latent and residual impacts. It may also include the obligations to pump and treat extraneous or polluted water. And for that reason, many mining companies now revert to just putting their mining assets in care and maintenance or warehousing these assets, or as I've mentioned, also applying for liquidation. So these are all perhaps issues that need to be addressed. Also, we express great concern for the systemic non-enforcement by the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy for the non-compliance of some of our laws and regulations.
Well, definitely. And also, I think, when we're talking about the illegal miners, a lot of focus is on the Zamazamas. We're talking about the foot soldiers, and this is where a lot of the focus has been. But this is a massive, this is huge. It's a huge industry. It's a multi-million rand industry. And, I don't know whether much has been done to basically follow through, in terms of investigations that have been taking place, but also to get to the people right at the top that are the real beneficiaries of all this illegal mining activity that is taking place.
Yes, in fact, what we often find is that the low-hanging fruits are being addressed, while the criminal syndicates, the top persons, the persons in control of these illegal activities, they often escape. I also just want to mention that in the case of the rape of that 8 women, you may recall, and the listeners may recall, in the Krugersdorp area, that was a case where a mining company, an Australian mining company, Mintails, went into liquidation. So these mine dumps, partially reclaimed tailing storage facilities, unrehabilitated footprints, and clusters of open pits do not have access control. There are no warning signs. There are no fences. And that has also resulted in the proliferation of illegal mining. So there is need, therefore, and in fact there has been a national mine closure strategy that had been drafted and that had been put out for public comment. This national mine closure strategy would also assist in addressing illegal mining. However, since May 2021, this draft national mine closure strategy had not been signed by our Honourable Minister, of mineral resources and energy. So that is also an issue that needs to be addressed. I also just want to mention that I had been contacted recently, a few days ago, by a bereaved father of his only son. The son was 31 years old, where he was kidnapped. His fourth body was then found in Lesotho, and his body, it is alleged, has been thrown into an open shaft within the Klerksdorp area, that is within the Buffelsfontein mine area. Now, the father, of course, wants to retrieve the body of his son. He is to get closure, and this is another perhaps risk that had been introduced by illegal miners. They enter open shafts, or alternatively, if the shaft had been closed, they often open the shaft again to get access to the gold-bearing reefs underground. So all of these issues, I think there is great urgency to address these issues.
Well, Maria, thank you very much for that and for your time this morning in unpacking what you have with us right here on Salam Media. We thank you for that. We do appreciate it, and all the best to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
And environmental scientist Mariette Liefferink with us this morning against the gas explosion that had taken place. Now, we've just seen an official statement that has been handed to me come through from Igoli Gas, and Igoli Gas saying that Igoli Gas would like to update the public in terms of its ongoing inspections of its pipeline network in the area of Bree Street, Joburg. The pipeline running on the road servitude of Bree Street has been checked and is not damaged. A small leak has been detected on the servitude pipeline at the corner of Bree and Elof on a 100 millimeter pipe. We believe the crack in the pipe has been caused by the collapse of the road. Our team is busy repairing this leak. Igoli Guest notes that there are approximately 15 other utility lines in the same area. For example, a sewage line that runs directly underneath the street. We would like to reiterate that our pipelines run on the servitude of the road. Now, this was a statement and saying that they will keep the public posted as they continue assessing any damage to their network. But once again, talking about the collapse of the road, and this is exactly what Mariette Liefferink has been talking about, and all this illegal mining activity and how this has actually impacted on our road networks. And this is not new. We've seen collapses and sinkholes emerging in many other areas as a result of the illegal mining taking place. Now, before we go for the break, before we are joined by Itiquini Secure, we just like to play out this video of the explosion that had taken place for the benefit of our listeners and viewers who may not have seen what had taken place yesterday in Bree Street.
Earthquake in Johannesburg on Bree Street.